Hey, Jose, this is Jose Pena with us from Palm Desert Charter Middle School. Thanks so much for joining us. How you doing?
Doing great. Just, getting ready for the winter season to get started and doing well though. Doing
That's
really, really well
that's
here at
awesome.
Palm Desert.
When's your first show?
We actually had our first show last weekend on Saturday. We had a premiere
Oh, that's
at
awesome.
Riverside City College. So that went really well. They came out really strong for the first one and now making some little small edits and getting ready to be really great in 2 weeks from our next show.
That's so exciting. And you guys settling in your first full year of being in the Scholastic Open class as a middle school color guard. That's really exciting. I'm sure you're happy that you got to plan a little bit better for that this year, right?
Yes, I'm so happy about it. I get a whole year to plan for it.
That's awesome. Well, we are going to have just a fun conversation today, a little bit about training and technique and how that can relate to the color guards throughout our awesome community, especially with the regional A and A classes. I'd love to just pick your brain about different things relative to training and what you do with your color guard. Now, I know that you obviously have a class. Am I correct with that during the week with the
Yes.
guards? And then you've got the varsity team that has the after school rehearsals where you work on the show. So I want to focus a little bit on that because I think the consistency in the community is that most color guards have about 2 rehearsals a week, and not everybody has a class. So I'd love to pretend as if that was you as well, and how you would maybe even change your approach or do the same thing. So talk to me right now. Walk us through what a normal rehearsal looks like for you for these after school rehearsals.
So we, at Palm Desert, we have two different times of rehearsal. We changed in the middle. Like right now, we shifted in January, and the first half of the year, we really focus on technique and dance. I mean, we'll dance from an hour to maybe an hour and 10 minutes, hour 15. It depends how long we can go. Early on, probably take an hour and a half. And then we'll do the last hour and a half of rehearsal to do like technique. Like we'll do flag technique, or we'll jump over and do a rifle block. But we spend a good amount of the first year doing technique, and then once we hit around October, we hit our competitive parade season that we do in the fall. Then we'll start doing, okay, let's do 40-minute dance and let's do a 40-minute rifle block. So we'll jump straight into rifle block, and then after that, we would jump into choreography, show stuff, and then as we get closer to competitions, we shift. But now for the second, like for winter season, that's the big one that everybody likes to talk about. We what we do right now is we'll do 30 minutes of dance, and then we'll do 30 minutes of rifle technique. And we'll do flag technique at times as well. It depends on how much we have on our list. We'll do 30 minutes flag, 30-minute rifle, or 30 minutes dance, and then we'll spend the other half of rehearsal on the show. That's typically what we would do. If I did not have my 45-minute class time through the week, I would probably try to make the blocks a little bit, 20 on flag and 20 on rifle. I wouldn't really diminish the time on dance technique and our blocks, because that's what makes us so technically good. I mean, you could create a great show, but you can't create it if you don't have technically a fish, like kids that are well trained, ready to go. Because the more trained they are, the more the product looks better. The show, it gets better.
It like affects every caption, right? From a
Yes.
movement standpoint. That's an interesting point because I actually had a conversation with a few of the groups that I work with myself in the last couple of weeks, and they talked about. I mean, they have a middle school program that they're starting, and they said, "Well, movement is our weakness," and that's pretty normal when you're starting out, no matter what. Because how many of these color guards actually have training or studio training, so having that movement foundation, it really does, it changes everything. I love that you said that. So
And what and once they get movement trained, I feel like the equipment stuff kind of just, it's another layer on top of it, and they know their body more when they're trained with movement and dance. That picking up a rifle or picking up a flag, it's just now another layer to movement.
so do you think if something happened and you know that you only had time to do one, am I hearing that you would probably always choose your movement training if you had to skip one over the other? Yeah, and I think that's so valuable because we can hold a piece of equipment, but if we don't actually have the presence with our bodies, it's not going to make what we do on equipment look great, right? That's
Absolutely.
that's
True.
awesome. So for those that don't have a class and only have two rehearsals a week, and let's say we're starting right now, everybody's in the process right now of performing their first few shows because today is February 1st that we're doing this interview. They've done their premiere or their premiere is happening in the next few weekends. Their show is out there. How would you change or adjust your training or technique program? Let's take your show that you have right now and you have no class time. How would you adjust that now that the show is done? Do you have any nuggets of, like, from a movement standpoint, what would you incorporate in your movement training to help your show?
So what I would do is so I have this awesome. We have two movement instructors here at the middle school that are super awesome, Ashley and Tommy, and Eric with the JV. But what we do is we'll look at the show and we see certain parts, like we'll do go into a chasse, into a stag, into or chaîné turn to a low chaîné to another stag, or things that are part of the show. So now when we do a dance class, when we go across the floor, we'll add those things in. We'll talk about those things. We'll break it down because usually in dance class we'll have time to break things down and all of that, even when we're cleaning it throughout the show. But I would try to see what we're doing in the choreography to apply to technique. So you don't do the same thing. You have to change a little bit of your technique of what you're teaching for that day, so you can help elevate the show. So let's say for rifle, if we have a rifle phrase that goes into a backhand speed change flourish here, okay, how can we create a backhand exercise that incorporates a flourish? And I've been lucky to be part of so many organizations that does that. So I just kind of pick certain parts and kind of create what's best for the middle school level or what my kids level is, because obviously my kids can't do the Fantasia warm up. They have to do a warm up that's for them, that helps them grow. So I would look at the show of what is written and kind of incorporate that into a technique class. And how can I break this down for them and connect different things so they can improve? And that's, I think it's analyzing. It's like super analyzing what you're doing and then putting it into a block before they start the day.
I love that you said, what you do at Fantasia is not what you do at the middle school level. And I think that is so consistent across the board. I mean, even I remember when I started teaching when I was 18, and what I was doing, I was in an independent world guard at the time, and I came from an A guard, but I was teaching a regional A guard, right? And so I was taking those exercises and trying to, oh, this is so cool, I love this. I'm going to have my regional A level students try. They had absolutely no foundation to do any of that. So I love that you pointed out that you take what it is and you make it work down towards where the level of the actual students are. That's so important.
And
So
honestly, I'm sorry to
no,
interrupt
no,
you,
no.
but that's what I really learned, that coming back from even doing a lot of exercise on Blue Devils, I thought, oh, I could incorporate all this into the middle school. And it's basically the same technique that we teach there, but it is just different parts and different count structures, different things that's suitable for them, that still has the same technical background. And it's I think it seems to work with them. And as a young instructor, we think, being younger back then, we used to think, how do we transfer all these things to fit our students? And I think sometimes we fall into that habit of like, oh, this is cool. And like you were just saying earlier, you kind of like want to just throw it at them and like, oh, why can't they get through this? And it's like, well, because it's not made for them. Because we go through a whole year process of knowing our students, and we have to take the tools that we learn and take parts of them and create this big old palette that's suitable for them, or this big old a toolbox for them that's
Yeah.
suitable for what they need for that level.
And so when you're going through and your team is choreographing the show, obviously you've gone through the training process. You know what that toolbox looks like. I'm interested to hear your answer on this. Do you try to overly challenge them past their toolbox to add new tools to it, or do you wait until after the season and going through the next training process to add to the toolbox, like something that's really difficult that they've never tried before. Do you throw that into your choreography, or do you make sure that you're conscious of what that top level is for your performers?
I'm very cautious of like I'm super cautious. I've always been about excellence. So I'm really cautious of how far to write on top of here. But there's gonna be things that have to be interesting. There's gonna be things that have to push them. But what I usually typically do is, okay, they know this flourish exercise. Okay, how do I get into a flourish to into a backhand and then grab it and go into a 45? The 45 is a different level for them. It's a little past what we do in technique class. So they're like, oh, especially when a one-handed on a rifle, they're like, oh, this is brand new. But they know the flourish, they know how to do a backhand because it's built into the technique. And then now this is the new part. I kind of try to create phrases. Me and Tim is here at the middle school too, and we try to create phrases that we can use some of the technique stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but and then at a higher level in certain parts of it, so they don't feel overwhelmed.
Do you feel like you are challenging the whole color guard, or are you cognizant of, okay, here are my performers that have a little bit more experience, a little bit more training. These are the people that we're comfortable challenging, and but yet we're writing for our strengths overall. I mean, how do you look at it in that process when, because you said the magic term excellence. You're so cautious about excellence. You write for excellence, which is literally the foundation of regional A and A, right? You get more credit in movement and equipment. It's factored to the 7130. So that's really valuable. So talk about that for a second.
So I'm really, again, I'm super cautious about this because I don't, for their levels, because you're always going to have different levels in your color guard. Some are going to be older, some are going to be younger. Um, the cool thing about that is I technically write in the middle sometimes, and I'll sometimes go a little bit above right there, and then I see how much they can handle. But the best part about that is it's okay to go a little above. Like that's okay. But it's also okay to analyze right there and right then when they're doing it. Because you could easily, if you've been, if it's the winter season, you went through a whole marching season, you know what they can do, sort of, and all that. So if you paid close attention, you should know what they're doing. So when you get to the winter season, when you're doing stuff and you see them like, oh, they're not going to get this, you should know that's a red flag automatically, and then we make a shift. And we technically do that. Sometimes I'll write them 8 counts, and then I know that 5 to 8, they're like, oh, that's not going to work for them. So and then I'll go, hey, let's keep the first 4. Okay, let's learn another 4 here, and then let's combine this phrase with this phrase instead, and kind of skip over that. But it's paying attention to every little thing that the kids are doing behind you while you're teaching it. It's super important. You can't. Sometimes it's okay to let it rest for days. That's totally okay. Teach them something hard. Let it rest for days. If you want a certain trick in the show, like a 45 toss or into a catch behind the back or something as a trick, give it to them early. I usually give it to them like November.
Yeah.
When we get to our first show, they're already at a 90% at it. It makes them feel comfortable, and it's also building your steps for the program to keep growing.
That
Because
is
you
an interesting level.
the kids are gonna. By the way, the older kids can do those tricks, and you can give them those tricks, and you can give them early. But the other kids are looking at them, and they're seeing those tricks happen. So it's just building and building. It's a stacking up for your program, and it doesn't stop growing if you keep challenging them, especially early on.
So you said 90%. You get to your first show about that time frame, and if you're seeing something that you don't feel is in the 90th percentile of achievement, when do you make that decision that you need to make sure that they're capable of doing it? We love the term watering down, which I feel like people look at negatively, and what it really to me is you're giving them what they're going to be successful at. So what's the red flag for you, or when you're getting to that first contest and you say 90th percentile, when do you make that call? How do you make that call? What do you do?
Yeah, if something becomes a red flag and I see it becoming an issue, I see, okay, let's give it a little bit more time. Sometimes I won't give it more time. I'm like, okay, we should change that. Like if it's drastically in a lower level, then I'm like, okay, yeah, this needs to go away. But if they're close to it, I usually wait, and by after the first regional, If it's still a problem, then I'll go ahead and make that enhancement. And I people say water down, and I agree with you. I think I hear it as an enhancement for the student to be successful.
Yeah.
And sometimes, sometimes people are like, well, it's not written for the sheet, but the sheet's also about excellence in the A class. So it's an enhancement to make sure that the kid feels confident, they feel good doing what they're doing, and maybe you don't have to do the two turn. Maybe it's just the one turn catch on a different angle, catch lower body, add lower body to it. I mean, there's ways to enhance tricks that makes it still look impressive.
And for the regional A and A classes, you may not need any of those tricks. It's literally standing still with beautiful alignment in your body, great free arms. The flag goes straight up, straight down. You're throwing a 1.5, rotation pop toss or whatever, and they all catch it in the same place on the pole. And that is the credit of achievement. And that's the foundation, right? That's, if we can't do this standing still, then let's look at how we can make them all successful. I love that. So let's talk really quickly, because we kind of talked through how you would approach the season. Now we're talking a little bit about the writing process and writing for the achievement level, which is awesome. Let's even go beyond that. Let's talk about the season is over. You know that you are taking on this color guard that only has 2 rehearsals a week. It's May 1st. Color guard auditions or whatever we do is done. How do you approach the rest of the year from, let's start with a movement standpoint, because I'd love to hear things like, what are things, just you could rattle off a list. What are things that you want to include in your training program? Is it a warm-up? Is it strength training? Is it a specific thing of pliés, tendus? Like, what would you do from May 1st until, let's say, band camp?
So from May 1st, usually by May 1st, I usually have my set list of who's the team next year at the middle school. And it's different because we have 5 classes this year. So my biggest thing is, let's go through movement first. We still have somebody coming in once a week. We don't have after school rehearsals anymore starting May 1st. We're done till we get back to the school years in mid-August. So what we do is we have a person come in still once a week and spend one class time with all 5 classes, kind of teaching them new skills, teaching them a dance combo, teaching them things that are going to keep them moving and keep them entertained. Because, if you just keep working on, we work on tendus all the time. We do pliés all the time. We do, ballet basics all the time because they're super important. But we also try to get them some choreography so they can also learn faster, because when we start teaching choreography in the fall, we want them to be able to pick it up. Okay, we've learned stuff already. Let's go down. Technique. Well, May 1st, you can ask Tim. We rifle. Here's a rifle. Even the 6th graders. Here's a rifle. Everybody gets a rifle. Even if you don't want to spin it, here we go. Let's just try our best to get through this rifle. Let's learn some technique. Let's learn some spins. Let's learn some how to use it. What is the weight of this rifle? How do we use this rifle? And kind of do a whole breakdown of this. So when they leave for the summer, they feel like, we know what this rifle is. We learned a few things on it. Now I can really work on it when I get home. And then we do some camps over the summer where they come in and we'll kind of put them in a block so they see what block is and all of that stuff. But we don't stop. We keep going. Every single day in class time, we'll do a dance day once a week. We'll do 2 rifle days. We'll do a flag day, 2 flag days, and then that's the end of the week. So we'll do 2 rifle days, 2 flag days, and a dance day. And then the varsity kids will learn a rifle phrase. For the 7th graders that are still in there, I mean, the whole class will learn it, and then they'll perform it. Put some hard skills in there. That's when I really put hard skills into stuff. When it's like it's a fun performance. I really want to do that, and I challenge even the younger ones to do it, even if they can get only through 8 counts, because they're learning something. They're learning different things that are a little bit more challenging for them to, again, help the progression for the following year, help it get better.
And for those of you listening at home, the thing that's great that you're talking about, because your class is 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So, you're talking about if you have 2 rehearsals a week after school that are 3 hours each or 2.5 hours each, that's actually more time than what you're talking about right now with your classes. So you can structure your after school rehearsals with that same concept. You're always doing movement technique basics. You're learning choreography, and that helps you learn like what styles they're good at. What are they going to be successful at, which is really important. You know, it's not what we think is cool as teachers, it's what they're actually capable of, which is great. And then I'm intrigued by the fact that you're like, rifle, here it is. Let's learn
Yeah.
this. And then obviously you do flag as well. That is so interesting. Well, I think that this has been such a valuable little lesson here on just technique and training and how you can combine what you're working on and what you see the performers are capable of, no matter what level, regional AA, open, all the way up to the world, you know, using that 90th percentile. It's probably one of my favorite things that you said today, you know, making that cognizant choice that, you know, we really need to set the students up for success, achievement first. We want to do things that are so cool, but that doesn't
Yeah.
always equal out to success. Do you have anything else that you would like to enlighten with us before we finish this up?
No, just keep doing what's best for the students. You know, that's the number one thing. It's hard because, you know, sometimes we're creative. We want to create these shows that are like you have this image about, but sometimes that image can't come to fruit because, you know, it's skill level maybe, just time. But, you know, it's make sure that the kids feel confident about their show and give them stuff early. I stress myself out trying to give them as much stuff early because I don't want them to feel stressed. I want them to feel ready to go, and I want them to feel as confident as ever when they go to the floor. And I think when people see us, I want people to look at us and be like, and sometimes they call us robots. Like these kids are robots. Like they just understand, and it's because we here as a staff here at the middle school take such a humongous ownership of making sure that we sweat and we get tired. I mean, we to make sure that everything is in their hands early on so they can be the best performer as possible.
That's
And
fantastic.
so we're really proud of it. That's the one thing that I love about being here is we do such a good job with our timelines here.
Timelines, there it is. Well,
Yep.
obviously you've set up an incredible culture at Palm Desert Middle School Charter, and I'm sure everybody can't wait to see what you're working on this year. I know that we wish you nothing but the best of luck. Thank you so much for your time, and we will see you along the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.